Okay, this is an interview at the Lexington Avenue Armory, New York City, August 6, 2002. It's approximately 2:30 p.m. This is an interview of Frank Hordich. The interviewer is Michael Russert. Could you tell me your full name, your date, and place of birth, please?
Right. Frank Mark Hordich, H-O-R-D-I-C-H, October 15th, 1970.
Excuse me, I have some cough drops if you...
Yeah, I have the problem with New Yorkers, post-nasal drip. I was born in New Jersey to the town of Maywood.
What was your pre-war education, pre-military service education?
High school graduate, some extension courses. That's about it.
Did you work prior to your going into the military service?
Yeah, surprisingly enough, I was with Wright Aeronautica Corporation in East Patterson when I was drafted. And I was not apparently indispensable to the war infantry.
What did you do at Wright Patterson?
Time study work, and it was in East Patterson. And I went in May, and I was drafted in May from Maywood.
So you were drafted
in May
of 1941?
Right.
Okay. Could you tell us where were you when you heard about Pearl Harbor, and what was your reaction to that?
I was in Camp Barkley, Texas, and my reaction was, gee, I don't have to volunteer out here now since 1941. That was, I mean, selfish maybe, but I mean, I was there already. I was in service already, 6 months.
What was your reaction to this besides, I don't have to...
Of course, like everybody else, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
All right, could you tell us about your military training from the time you entered service in May of 1941?
Yeah, interesting. We were sent down to Newark Armory in New Jersey. We already had a pre-physical at home, which was interesting too. Taking the physicals, we were sitting there, and the doctor there says, "Read that chart over there." So I so-and-so. Funny. Guy walks halfway up, looks at the chart, goes back, he says, "That's all right." So when you pass a physical there, they send you down to Newark Armory. You say you run around half a day in shorts and get a complete physical. And at the end of the day, you hold up your hand and you're inducted sworn into the Army. After that, about a week or two after that, because they had so much problems, they would bring you in, and if you passed, they would send you home for a week so you could clear up your business and then go in. Because when I went in, if you went in and failed the physical, you'd already quit your job and everything else. So this time they gave you a week's effort to clean up your business. So then I was down at Fort Dix training camp. And I was there for, I guess, until about October. And I was sent out to Camp Grant, Illinois, Medical Replacement Center in Camp Grant, Illinois. Colonel Von Mash theoretically came from Camp Grant, Illinois. Colonel Potter. Went to clerical school, clerk school, clerical school. I was there for until about November. And I was sent down to Camp Barkley, Texas, which was a medical replacement training center, and they were just opening it up. And we spent about a month cleaning the place up. And We're out in 110 degrees, top of wood, miscellaneous wood that they had from tearing down the barracks. Get up on top of that, and the sergeant was very nice. It was an old cotton field, and the sergeant was very nice. He says, if you see any snakes, you can always tell the difference. One has a belly like this, and the other one has a belly like this. I said, Sergeant, if you think I gotta roll a snake over to find out what it is, whether it's poison or not, you're out of your mind. So we opened up Camp Berkeley, Texas, and I wound up in classification and assignment, which we took the people that were inducted various places in the Southwest and brought them into Berkeley. We interviewed each one of them as to their capabilities, and then we would assign them to either clerk school, cooks and bakers. Cooks and bakers we used to send the undertakers to, truck driver, and surgical technician school. And when I was there, I interviewed many people. I wound up to be a staff sergeant. And we placed them in all the various categories for the schools. From there, I was in there for about a year, I guess, and I had put in for Officer Candidate School, which had a medical administrative officer school. I had put in for it, and I didn't hear any more from them. I also put in for the one in the Air Force down in Florida. And the post commander, the general, says none of my guys are going to Air Force, so he pulled mine back. The result was that one Saturday, I guess, I was called by the first sergeant. Says, get your rear end over to Officer Candidate School. You're going to start on Monday. It turned out that there was a shipload of candidates coming in from the West, from overseas in the Pacific, and they weren't going to make it, so they had to fill up the class. So that's what started my officer candidate.
Could you talk about some of your classes and some of the things you learned while you were in officer candidate school?
To keep your mouth shut. Of course, they had all types of classes, and it was more or less field training, figure out places to go, and they give you a map. I said, you're going to have to find, reconnoiter a spot, and you get up, you say so-and-so, and say, oh, can't do it there, the field artillery's there. They'll give you another suggestion. Oh no, you can't do that, somebody else is there. So, and they call you by number, and you just hope that if they were calling 10, and 20, and 30, if you were 40, you hope they stopped. So it was all some medical training too.
So this was a specialized candidate school for medical?
Yeah, they had, each branch has a officer candidate school. This was medical MSc, medical service corps at that time, or medical administrative corps at that time, MAC. It was the 5th class I graduated.
Okay, after you graduated, where did you go from there?
Interestingly enough, 2 classes graduated together. It was a post commander's birthday. The one class was accelerated and the other class was shortened. And I think they graduated 1,000 second lieutenants. We all marched over. We got, interesting point is the fact we got a troop train, or we got a train from Abilene, Texas to Chicago when we graduated. And no meal cars or anything, just somebody happened to glom onto a train and was able to go up. We get up to Kansas City and we get off for the first break. I vividly remember a mother and father standing over and looking at all these second lieutenants coming off. Mother was saying, my God, they're all second lieutenants. So that was From there, we went up to Camp Edwards, Massachusetts. And they had started a unit up there, I think it was the 59th General Hospital. But by the time we got up there, they had moved overseas to the Pacific. And so they set us up at the 304th Station Hospital, 750-bed hospital. I think that was in November. Camp Edwards, December. And there were four medical administrative officers on the TO&E. So I took adjutant, somebody else took food service and so forth and so on. That's why I got to be an adjutant of a 750-bed hospital.
What were your responsibilities as adjutant?
Well, they were building it up. We were getting corps men from Virginia, Chicago, all over the place, and it was getting the unit all organized, receiving nurses, receiving doctors from all over, getting proper training, getting them all ready to function. And field training, you know, the typical crawling on your belly under wire with machine guns over, you know, for that type of training.
Now, what was this hospital used for? Were those that were wounded, did they come into this hospital, or was
Not yet. Not yet. We were only getting organized.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't function until I think it was 5th of September 1943. We were shipped out over to the United Kingdom through Camp Kilmer and the New York Port of Embarkation. It took us 10 days to get over there. Then they set us up in a place outside of, in Wales, a place outside of Liverpool. And when we were there, we were taking care of the Allied wounded around the area. You know, it was before D-Day, and there was a lot of troops up in the area, and we were taking care of those troops. I don't have any information on how many we cared for, but we were there until D-Day was what, the 4th?
6th of June.
We were sent down to in England on the day before D-Day, near Reading. And we opened up there, and somebody asked me what was the biggest thing that happened to you over any place that you were in service. I said, it was three things. This Allied air umbrella on D-Day is something you don't forget. They had planes, literally, I mean, you heard the expression, anything but the kitchen sink. I think we saw the kitchen sink go over too. This was all night, day before D-Day morning and so forth, all night. This armada, aerial armada was going, and it kept, you could see kept going from D-Day landing, it kept moving around as the troops were moving inland and so forth. And that was fantastic. I've talked to people in the unit, they said, never forget it. So we were set up down in the south of England at that time in Reading, near Reading.
And you started receiving wounded from
the Normandy invasion, right? About the day after, a day or two after. We had when we were up in Wales, we were called upon to furnish, I think, 15 people, 5 surgeons, 5 nurses, and 5 corpsmen for service on the LSTs. And we started getting the patients, the prisoner of war patients, in right after D-Day. Talked to my nurses afterwards. She said it was a polyglot. There was English, Irish, German, Italian in the patients. They had to be interpreted. The situation was that they had overrun a lot of the German or Axis hospitals. So we had a lot of German nurses, German corpsmen, German doctors working in our facility along with our own people. We were a 750 bed hospital, and we were generally about 800. Had a perimeter wire fence around it with a MP detachment. Interesting part of that was that the second lieutenant in the MP detachment had been one of our corpsmen when we were up in Camp Edwards. He was reassigned, he was back to the unit again as the MP detachment commander. That took about a year.
Out of approximately, you said 750 beds, how many were occupied by German prisoners, would you say?
Oh, no, we had no Allied prisoners.
Oh,
These
these
were strictly, there was, I think, 3 hospitals, I can't be sure, but there's our hospital, the 304, there was one down Lower England, I think it was a 306, and I think there was a general hospital that was receiving prisoners, because we'd get a call from the railhead and say, hey, you got a train in, we get down and triage everybody on the train, and I have pictures of the ambulances that we were picking up, and one of them was a general hospital ambulance, so I'm not sure whether they had one or not. But there were 3 hospitals, 2 hospitals I'm sure of, that were handled just at these Axis prisoners. We'd bring them in, settle them in, and take care of them. And what usually happened was, if they were not eligible or if they're not available to go back to duty within a year, we would send them back, repatriate them on a troop train. Take them down to a train, they take them down someplace and send them all back home again if they weren't available for a year. The rest of them we took care of. I don't think we had too many losses. I know we had over 600 patients during the year that we had them. And I don't think we lost too many patients. I don't have the statistics on that, but so that was up to that time. From England, we went over to France for a few days and waited until we got sent down to Metz, and we sat down in Metz for a while, and then we no, that was later. I'm ahead of myself. So that was up until December, probably. It was a whole year anyway we took care of the patients. In the meantime, when I was in England, when I got into England in February of '44, I got word that my wife had delivered us a daughter.
When were you married?
January '43. And I got a telegram. I'm amazed nowadays, you know, somebody's over in Qatar or someplace, and get email, or get telephone calls, or this. I got a telegram, and then I heard no more for about a week. I didn't know what was happening, but I came home in December of '45, so she's almost 2 years old before I first saw her, other than in pictures. That was number 1 on the list of my. Number 2 was the aerial armada. The highlights.
So your hospital unit moved with the front? You said you moved to France?
No, we stayed in a place called Kingwood Common until we were moved to, somebody else took over, the British hospital took over our facility, and they moved us over across the channel. Interesting too, I slept all across the channel. Everybody else was sick. But we went over to Rouen, and then from Rouen we went down to, I guess it was Metz, and from Metz we went down to an assignment in near Garmisch-Partenkirchen in Germany, in Bavaria. We were inactive all that time while we were moving, and we went down there. We were supposed to be occupation troops down there, and it was down below Munich. And I was transferred, I was on my way home by then, November I guess it was, I was on my way home, rotating home. And they sent me up to Garmisch-Partenkirchen to take over a small hospital there that was built during the Winter Olympics that they had in Germany. I think it was 36. Nice little hospital. I was the exec officer. The CEO would be there in the morning. I'd be out riding cable cars. I'd come in the afternoon. He'd take off. Nice duty. So we stayed there for some months. We got down to Oberammergau and those places. I was thinking about putting in for flight pay. I was riding for so many cable cars. Then they sent us down to Marseille around November. We came home. We got home in December of 45.
What were your relations like between you and your hospital staff and people in England?
When we had to build up our hospital while we were down in near Reading, we used to have the British service troops in. But they only could come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then they had to have their tea, and it used to be almost like having a whip over them to get any work done during the week. They couldn't come in here, they couldn't come in then, but my other impression was that we had the office there, one of the, what they call a speed constable rode around on bicycles. You could always guarantee that almost every day you see him coming up the driveway, it would be lunchtime. And that was because hospitals over there were renowned for their good food, because we get extra rations and so forth because of the patients.
How about when you were in France? Were you in contact with French population at all? Or?
I think it was Lucky Strike Rear, and it was just a military camp. I don't think anybody got any leave or anything else like that. I mean, we were just there for less than a week, I guess it was, until they sorted things out. So we didn't have any liberty or anything else like that.
In Germany?
Down in Germany, it wasn't bad. I mean, they accepted us as troops. I know somebody said that they wanted us to learn German, and I think it was me. I said, "I can learn German. We won. Let them learn English." But we had a very, very good relationship with the German down there in Bavaria, anyway.
Were you at all aware of the existence of concentration camps?
No. We were outside of, another interesting story, outside of Munich. Bad Tolz, T-O-L-Z, was Patton's headquarters at that time. And we came under the Third Army because we were in that particular area. I had occasion to go up to I had occasion to go up to the headquarters for some particular reason one time. I had my driver with me. I think I had my majority then. When we got up there and walked in, it's PFC sitting behind the desk. And my driver has tie down, hat on, so forth. No, you had to have a steel pot every time you went into that PFC. This was a corporal I had as a driver. That PFC chewed my driver out no end because he was not in uniform up in Patton's headquarters. But things worked out all right.
How did you ever see Patton himself? Or?
No, we just went up for some administrative situation or something, and we left again. Didn't see him. But.
Okay, after you returned home to the United States, what happened?
I went to go back to my other job, the job I had left with Wright Aeronautics, and found out that when we all went overseas and the gals took over, the gals were getting raises and so forth. The 2 years or so we were away, and the guys came back at the original salary. So most of us packed it in. And after a couple of different jobs, I was in the airline. I worked for Eastern Airlines as a flight purser for a while. And then I worked for Independent Testing Laboratory down here in New York, down at 50, down over by Wall Street down there. And I was there for about 20, 25 years. I was in charge of sampling and assaying. We'd go out and look at scrap material, like a drum of scrap, precious metals like gold, silver, platinum plated. They'd send them up to Bridgeport, Connecticut. We'd go up and we were a representative of the shipper. So we'd go up and watch them weigh it, process it, melt it, and so forth, take an assay. Based on that, that's what the shipper would get paid. So it was all precious metals, weighing gold and silver bars.
Now you stayed in the National Guard until 1977? What were your duties?
I admit you were in the National Guard Army, but we were in the reserves.
Oh, you were in the reserves.
But I stayed in the reserves, and eventually it was I think at a small station hospital in the Bronx. And we weren't going anyplace, and suddenly they decided to open up a general hospital. So they opened up a 1,000-bed general hospital in the Patterson Armory up in the Bronx. And I went in as exec officer, and while I was there, I got my promotion to lieutenant colonel. And this, again, was, what was it, 45, 46, 47, somewhere around there. And what we were doing was more or less just processing guys in and out. We'd get all these kids coming in, we'd get them in, we'd sign them up. It's what they called 6 take a chance at that time. You signed up. You had a chance of going in 6 months or nothing. And we'd get them all in droves to hold them for a while to process it, and then they'd all leave. So, and we also had our own training cycles in that too, but this was what took care of most of the detachment work. We had nurses, doctors there, mostly from the local hospitals in the Bronx. So I left there in 66, I guess. I was due out in 66. We used to go up to Pride Camp every year. It's amazing what they're doing up in Pride Camp Drum now. It's 101st Mountain Division's up there now.
10th Mountain.
And they rebuilt that place like Atlantic City Casino up there. We just roughed it up there, but we went up there for several years. And I finally left in 66, and I went in I was inactive reserve, and then I finally was fully retired in '77.
How do you think your war experience affected your life?
I walk straighter. It was very interesting because it was something unique, something that nobody else had been doing. I mean, most other hospital units were taking care of patients when they had the other. We're taking care of all the Axis prisoners. I don't know whether to brag about it or not, but I mean, somebody had to do it. I guess it's one of those things. But no, it helped me because I ran about 20 reunions of the unit, 20, 25. I didn't run them, some of them I helped with somebody else. But we finally ran it a few years ago, and let's see, we had 70 nurses. We had 3 Red Cross workers. We had 1 physical therapist, and we had 1 dietitian, and 75 nurses. That was our female complement. We had 40 doctors and something like 385 enlisted men in the hospital that we had overseas. So we run those reunions. They come from all over, West Coast, New England, South Coast, southern States. But eventually it just deteriorated down to only a few people.
Did you ever take advantage of the GI Bill at all?
No, I didn't. I didn't. Why, I don't know. I guess I should have, but I didn't. I guess I was more interested in the family at the time.
How large was your family?
3 girls. 3 girls. The oldest one now, of course, we were married in '43. She came along in '44, so the oldest one is 58, and we just passed 59th anniversary. And in-laws and sons and in-laws and grandpeople, I guess we're about 15 now. 15.
Do you belong to any veterans organizations at all?
I'm sorry, there was noise.
Do you belong to any of the veterans organizations?
Yes, I do. I belong to the American Legion, and that's primarily because I can keep in touch with some of the units that we knew about, plus the fact that we used to post our meeting notices there, and that was a good media for. I first came home, I joined the VFW, but never attended, and I dropped that. I couldn't, I had a lot of time. Didn't have a lot of time.
Okay, do you have any questions? All right, well, thank you very much, sir.
Right.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I said that there was 3 highlights.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes,
that's right.
yeah, that's right. You gave us 2.
It's 85, but this is working. I said that the wedding, the D-Day Air Armada, and the other thing was Pearl Harbor. And as I say, I was in, so I didn't have much choice whether to go or not to go. But that, and I see more and more what a disaster it was because of the fiascos. And incidentally, I see that the Kummel and the Admiral and the General that had been charged with dereliction or something because of not being ready for it. I understand they just were reinstated, which it should have been because it wasn't really their fault.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the stuff that happens around now, I look back and say it shouldn't have happened, but it did.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate you coming down here.
Well, we appreciate you taking time out to come in and talk to us. Thank you very much.
Oh, let me just ask you
got
something
it.
briefly. When you were overseas, did you get to see any kind of USO shows or?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. When we were at Camp Grant, or I'll back up to Fort Dix. When we were at Fort Dix, a USO shape came in and they had the big van, so they took about half a dozen of us and we set the thing up, we pulled the things down and everything, pulled the sides down and make the stage and so forth. That was Milton Berle.
Oh.
That was then we were out in Illinois, and Joe Louis was out there. And you probably don't remember Hallie Roy, the dancer, the tap dancer?
No.
Big lanky guy, tap dancer. Back in the 50s, I guess. Hallie Roy. My mother babysat him. But when we were over in Wales, his troupe came through. And that's about it. But we also had the vans around the very place, the donut vans. They gave us a picture postcards, we'd sign a name, they sent it home to us. They sent them to the road. And when we were in Wales, we used to have these hospital ship platoons. There'd be a major and a corpsman or something. They'd be assigned to the ships coming over for medical purposes. And when they come over to Liverpool, they were sent up to us for billeting, rations and quarters. And whatever they did, they take like messages back to our parents or our families, say, yeah, we saw Frank, he's okay, that's it. And not where they were or anything else like that. Yeah, we saw him, he's okay. So that's encapsulated 25 years.
Well, thank you very much.
We
Thank
run out
you.
of time and tape.